Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name is Adam. I'm joined by Baker, and I'm also joined by Danny. Danny, how are you, mate?
All right, thanks, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Seems like ages ago when I was last on, wasn't it? But it was actually like just before
Pre-season.
the season started. Yeah, just before the season started. Yeah, it seems like ages ago.
Yeah,
Probably
well,
because it's been like
It's hat trick.
two the longest international breaks in history in between it. Yeah, hat trick. Yeah, good shout.
Hat trick.
hat-trick. There's a few of you now. I've been forever trying to get hold of kind of like personalised football type things with our logo on so we can just send to you. But I still haven't been able to find anything better than a shitty stress ball or something like that. But you remember when Soccer AM used to do that for guests, like when they came on their third, and they used to get given a physical ball, like a hat trick ball, right? So I've been trying to find something like that, but failing.
I've got the coasters. I've got the coasters that Baker sent me, which are pretty cool.
Beautiful. Yeah, just show those off. They are top
notch. No, they're downstairs.
Ah, it's a shame. I've got a few.
They do look really good, to be fair.
Got a few here, so above average. Yeah. So hello to everyone in the chat. Obviously, we're approaching game week 10. We're going to be doing some team selection from myself and Baker, and Danny is on Wildcard. Thought it was really important to get you on, Danny, because Wildcard is obviously a big subject this week. So, for us not to be talking about Wildcard teams, we'd be doing people that watch a disservice. And I think it's, it's obviously important for us as well, because we need to know what we need to keep pace with, really, and how we kind of need to navigate our teams to try and, make sure we don't get hurt so much by it. But, different challenges for game week 10 wildcard. Obviously, those that have wildcarded earlier are probably looking at a little bit higher team value, probably, depending on your rank. So, yeah, lots of things going on. Obviously, fixtures have now swinging, and, lots going on. So how's the drafting been going from your side?
Yeah, it's been pretty intense actually, because I've sort of had like 2 weeks of just switching off from it. Not just because of the despair of Salah getting back-to-back braces or whatever it was and everything else, but also just because obviously my team was set up for 8 and 9. Like I've got no regrets for not wildcarding in game week 8. Just the outcome was the outcome, but my team was so well set up for 8 and especially 9, so I didn't really have to think about. I've been busy at work, so I hadn't watched much football. Yeah, and as I say, 8 and 9 just took care of themselves. I was just like, I spent like, even Baker remember actually, I spent like 4 or 5 days thinking about Chris Wood last week and eventually didn't bring him in.
Yeah, he did.
Slightly annoyingly. So this week I've just been trying to catch up, because it's been quite exciting to just get back into wildcard and be able to get rid of double Man United and all the rest of it, whatever else I had in there. And it's been tough. It's really tough, as you'll see with the draft that I've ended up with. Like it's tough for so many reasons. I'm sure we'll discuss. But it's been fun, and I'm still far from decided where I'll end up with it.
Do you find that's the most fun part though? Is the wild card, because you just get to open up and have a clean slate once again, and you get to work out what's gone wrong so far and stuff like that. Is that the bit that, because I'm rather indifferent week to week, and I tend to get laser focused on 1 to 2 players. Like I can tell you, I've got one move in my mind now beyond what I've already done, and I can't imagine any other players coming into that sort of tunnel vision. It's a case of like, do I do it or do I not? And that's about as much. So wildcard kind of just opens things up where you can actually start playing around and moving things around, changing combinations. Do you find that a lot more fun?
Yeah, and you know what? I've just sort of thought this as you've asked me that, because I was just sort of thinking back. I was trying to think back to like the last time I wildcarded and whether I enjoyed it, just as you said that. And I just realised that I think one of the reasons why I've enjoyed this so much this time is because the last 2 or 3 wildcards that we've used have all been based around double game weeks, and like it's a lot of it's been decided for you, and it's been getting whatever it was, triple this, triple that for the double game week this, double game week that, and it's not been fun. And actually, I hadn't thought of that until now. I hate that, because you want to sort of differentiate if you can, not for the sake of it, but go with players that you like for reasons of the player, the team over 6 or 7 game weeks, and that is what this wildcard has been, and I've forgotten that. So it has been enjoyable.
I always like Danny with you. Is that I was just saw a comment saying is that Danny has the patience of a saint, so said that and stuff, and I always feel like you barely sing your praises on it, mate, but like on a hard season, you're still 560k. Like that's pretty good at the moment. It's in a pretty good place to have gone through those wild cards and still be in that. And like your recent ranks are ridiculous. Like we've been in a mini league, me and you, in a very small mini league of like 5 of us for the last 3 seasons, and I'm like, can't get near Danny. You were like, I just checked, it was like 16k, 13k, 6k. Oh, there was a 201k, which I'm sure you probably think about quite regularly, and then 513 and 9k. Like, you've had some serious seasons recently.
Just before you say it, I'm glad you stepped back for a second there, because the little white on your zip, people have mentioned it in the chat. You're looking like a vicar, mate. You're looking like a reverend.
God,
it's the wrong way, isn't it? It's almost the other way. Oh, he's got the Adidas.
He's got the full Adidas jacket on.
No, that doesn't look quite so much like the vicar.
I'll get onto casual at some point.
Make him a little warmer.
There we go. Sorry, you carry on. Had to just get in there.
We don't want that. Thanks, mate. And yet, obviously, as is the case of FPL, you always end up feeling frustrated. Like I know the exact ludicrous decisions that I made the last 2 seasons that cost me top 10k and so on. And then even this season, I am happy, I am pleased, but like I tend to start well. Whether that's just pure luck or just I quite like game week 1, and this season again, I can't remember because I haven't looked now, but I did start well. And a few weeks ago, I was like, I think I was 72k or 172k, but after like 3 or 4 weeks, it was a solid start. So, and then obviously, you have things like you started with Ollie Watkins and you sold him, so it's you can't help but focus on the negatives.
We're all great on that. It's like I would all forgot that we'd done it. Someone pointed out, and I'm like, oh yeah,
I know. But what's nice about that, even that one, is I don't have major regrets. I remember at the time, what I remember, which you'll always regret, is I remember hovering over the button, and I never really liked the move. I don't feel comfortable with it because I was taking out a player I rated so highly and I knew was a good player. But obviously, Jackson had the fixtures and he did end up getting the chances. So it's not, I don't regret that move, but it is annoying.
I think on it as well, though, if we're all straight away saying about like Watkins to Jackson, a lot of people have been saying that type of things, but people even normally went Sterling and Alvarez, or they went Jackson and Foden, for example, or something like that. They had the picks of which ones they went with it. If we hadn't taken him out of Jackson, we definitely would have taken him out for Alvarez. He still wouldn't have been there. Still wouldn't have been there through this. It is just what it is. I'm assuming then that Mr. Watkins and Haaland is straight in.
Oh yeah. I haven't really thought about Haaland, but obviously, well, I have, but I just don't think it's needed at this point. I think if I had a wildcard in Game Week 8, I would have given that some consideration. But yeah, Haaland's in, and Watkins is definitely in. Hasn't moved. Lots of players have moved. Lots of players have not moved. Oh, is my team up on
this
screen?
This is it, mate, and we're on audio as well, so you got to read out the whole thing.
Oh God, right? Yeah, people are going to be gasping, and this is not, probably looking at the bench, and this is not necessarily where I'm going to end up. But I did think of the few drafts that I've got that are under serious consideration. I thought this would probably give us like a nice basis for discussion. But yeah, so it's Areola and Strakosha at the moment, because you can see there's nothing in the bank either anyway. Gabriel, Tsimikas, Digne, which we'll talk about. Lascelles, which we'll talk about. Because I know people are going to be like, what the hell? This is ludicrous, but just let's get there. Taylor.
Bare bones.
Yeah, bare bones. And then Salah, Matoma, Saka, Son, Bowen, Watkins, Haaland, Mubama. You
genuinely couldn't have less on the bench. You've got, that's it, isn't it? There couldn't be less possibly on a bench.
3.9s and a 4.3.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I remember last night thinking somebody said Baldock might drop to 3.8, and I was like, might bring Baldock back.
He's back in training, or just about back in training.
Yeah. But
it's very, I was gonna say it's obviously very top heavy, this one.
Yeah, it's top heavy, but I think it's not that it's top heavy. I think I spent a while last night trying to think about it. And again, this is, be careful here, because I end up being too persuasive, and I'm just selling this draft. I'm talking to myself, persuading myself. But it's been puzzling me for a long time, and I'm playing around with these different positions, and Bowen, especially Bowen, Matoma, obviously Digne, Cash. It has been Cash for a while. But I mean, in terms of the evolution of the draft, I started the week very much thinking that I would definitely keep Trippier. And I know that everyone's probably saying, yeah, we all did. And, that's all changed. I do feel like I'm particularly high on Trippier. Like I think it's genuinely ridiculous how good he is as a pick, because it just feels so repeatable. Like they're just such a well-oiled machine, and it will keep happening. Not necessarily over this next stretch of fixtures as much, hopefully, which is why I don't have him at the moment. But like, and obviously I've had Trippier for the last. That's been a god. There's been a few godsends for me the last few weeks. Like I brought Dallow in obviously as well and things like that. But I hit Trippier in like 4 weeks ago. Before his 12 pointer or something, and then that's just been so. Having him makes it even harder to get rid of him. But yeah, it has just come down to kind of looking at the fixtures, and it is partly about looking for opportunities. And so yeah, I've been playing around with those positions a lot, and obviously there's the obvious things where you could have Diaby instead of Bowen, which is a possibility to still do that, and then obviously strengthen up the bench or whatever. But with that team, I mean, before any questions, I suppose, the justification in my mind is actually I started to think, hang on a second, I'm picking these players over the long term, players that I want over the long term. Obviously, we're talking about best case scenario, people not getting injured and so on. But it feels silly to go, for me personally, to go into this stretch without a Brighton attacker, for one. Okay. And I can't justify the other Brighton attackers at the moment. Like I've spent a good while this week looking at them, looking at highlights, reading about them. In fact, I didn't even know anything about Adingra, to be honest. Because again, I haven't watched football the last 2 or 3 weeks much. I just haven't had a chance. I've been moving house and stuff as well, and all sorts. So, and then there's obviously Pedro, but I don't trust any of these guys' minutes enough, even with Welbeck injured, and obviously March. I do think Adingra will definitely start when he's fit, because I've been watching him and he looks really good. He is a player. He totally passes the eye test. He looks like a young sort of nippy March, but just slightly less aggressive on the runs and marches. He's a really good player. He puts a great crossing, by the way. So I do think he's good for assists and stuff. But obviously, I don't know what his legs are like. He's 21 years old. Maybe he's like a Phil Foden or a Sterling who just recovers really quickly. We don't know that, so we don't know what's going to happen. I've not seen Europe tonight, to be honest. But again, the wildcard is an opportunity for many things, and obviously it's a bit of an opportunity for us to jump on the fixtures and also catch up to everything that Game Week 8 Wildcard has done. And I don't want to be using that opportunity buying players who are minutes risks. It just feels too much because there are too many good players who are not minutes risks. So obviously, you might look at that draft and think, well, you could have Palmer and Gordon, and obviously they've been in my draft a lot as well. That's why I've not made the moves. Palmer's in there for 4.9. But I keep coming back to Brighton and just thinking, the fixtures are so good, and Bowen as well. The fixtures are so good for so long. And so, again, hypothetically, best case scenario, if we assume, obviously, I'm confident these guys start, so assuming they don't get injured, I don't really have to concern myself with that area of the pitch at all. So I don't mind using my transfers around the defence for a bit. And particularly because when you think about like Digne, for example, and Villa, and obviously there's a sacrifice in every team. And in this current draft, the sacrifice is obviously cash, which I'm worried about and which we'll discuss, because you sort of create these narratives in your head, and Cash is going to score a brace and this and that, and it's fine. There are all sacrifices. Cash is definitely better than Digne, but of the sacrifices, like between the likes of Diaby and Bowen, who you are going to want long term, as we think now, and between the sacrifices of like Mitoma versus another Brighton mid, or someone whose minutes you can't trust, the gap between Digne and Cash is not that big. I mean, even if you look at models like Reviewer or whatever, or Tottenham as well, it's really close, for good reason. Obviously, the models probably slightly undersell it, because Cash will be more like the recent, more like long-term stats rather than this season. So there's probably a bigger gap than the models think. But with Villa, it's top heavy in terms of the fixtures. The money fixture is this first one. There are 3 good fixtures, but the absolute money one is this one.
Yeah.
So you're really trying to get through this fixture. If you've got a Diaby, it is a transfer down the line. If it's not for Bowen, it's going to be for Bumo or Mitoma, whoever you don't have. Like, it is a transfer.
Yeah.
Whereas, getting through Luton, you've got Digne. It's like, I'll roll that dice. I can roll that dice, Digne over Cash for one game. There's going to be a sacrifice somewhere. And obviously, there's issues there. Digne's got 4 yellows. Right, which is exactly No, yeah. So it's and again, fine. But first of all, he's got the money fixture. He's playing Luton,
and he's 4.7. So you've got all of the 4.5s.
he's 4.7. Obviously, people will look at that and say, well, why don't you just get Pau? You know, again, because it's close between the two. But then I feel like I've got no ticket. Like I'm not. You know, I could end up. He might not get booked. I might have 3 or 4 or 5 games, and then I've got no ticket to like Dini's numbers are good. You know, like all the crosses from the left. So I'm not really one for Pau, just so I can upgrade Lascelles. You know, I don't mind. I know Lascelles has got 2 or 3 games in him, and then he's not going to play. But actually, that covers a Dini yellow reasonably well. Obviously, you know, I'll play Lascelles any game and be happy because it's Newcastle. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so, again, hypothetically speaking, I don't expect to be making transfers in that front 8. And for every game that passes that Dini doesn't get yellow or so on, then I get to roll a transfer, and I'm more kind of capable of moving around the defence over time. You know, so Dini would probably go and get in 3 or 4 weeks, and it might be that someone like Reguilon is fit and is playing again, and he's got great fixtures at 4.4, or Maguire's nailed at 4.2, or you know, he's got good fixtures for. And again, the other thing is, when we're talking about the defenders, you know, you've got Trippier obviously, and the likes of Alexander-Arnold, but there's few and far between. You know, there's a big gap. Once you've got a cheap defense, it's like, you know,
You just stand there.
You're there, and it's not like I'm missing out on great players. I'm missing out on cash this game week.
Yeah.
But I don't mind. Like the money isn't in the defense at the moment. It's not happening in defense. Didn't even speak to that many clean sheets, you know, apart from Newcastle. And obviously Gabriel just looks like a long term hold, and Tsimikas looks good to me. I'm not worried about Tsimikas, apart from being worried about maybe the odd sub before 60, but is what it is. And then obviously, I know I've gone on for ages here, but Tsimikas, I think it's game week 13. He plays Man City, and that's fine. That's an issue. But again, that's 3 or 4 weeks away, and I expect to have made a defender transfer or so by then. So, yeah, does that make sense? That it looks kamikaze, but I'm not too fussed about it.
It's weird, isn't it? We always focus on certain things, and it will like immediately start when you show that bench, like it looks better like this because you don't see him. Where you actually see that bench lined up as the goalkeeper sub 1, 2, 3, you're like, blimey. But yeah, like it is what it is. You know, I'm currently going in with no bench virtually every week at the moment because I've kept Botman and I've got Cabora who doesn't start, so that's worse than having 2 3.9s. You know, I'm spending more money to have no defender that can come on. It is what it is. I definitely at the start of the week, I think we talked a bit about, you know, talisman, that there's some really big talisman out there at the moment, and I would try and fill as many of them in my wildcard draft as I can. Well, your whole front 7 is, there you go. There's because there's so many plum fixtures. Some strange reason, in the shower this morning, I was trying to sort of like count through in my head where I separate teams. I don't know why I was doing this. I was like, it's because actually when you start doing that, you can't work out how many bad teams there are. Like you have to try and work out, have I got 20 teams in my head yet? But effectively, there's obviously the promoted 3. You know, they're really, really bad. And even if they weren't in the league, if you then added in the Bournemouth, Forest, Everton, sorry to all the fans of these people, even, you know, you've got
Fulham.
Wolves, Fulham, like, so you've then got 5 more on top of the promoted teams. So you've then got 8 there. And that's then, you've probably got a next sort of level where you start going more into your Palace and the likes. But like, if you've got 7 talisman from 7 different teams, well, law of averages, you're going to have some play those teams in the bottom 8 regularly, and you know that all of these ones are facing these people. It just feels like every week these talisman are just not missing. Therefore, if you have 7, you'll probably have 4 bang. You'll definitely have all the best captain options. I don't have a huge issues with any of it.
I mean, you know, as well, I mean, obviously, you know, it's not advisable to do this, and I still don't think people will like this at 2 minutes. And you're not going to, you know, if you've got any ambitions to get into like Elite 1K or anything like that, it's probably not the team to go for. But the other thing is there's a flexibility thing there as well, and there's a team value thing. I'm almost grabbing hold of those attackers that are racing away. You know what I mean? Like I looked at this team before, and you had a sort of go with yours, didn't you? And you could just about afford it with cash because you've got so much more money than me.
Yeah, I had
And
about
I'm already
about 0.6 more, didn't I, than you?
Yeah, and I'm already minus 0.6 on this team. I didn't even realize that I'd caught like any price rises or drops. I knew I'd caught a few or whatever. I just got like Watkins in and Salah, obviously, and Bowen's gone up and so on. But I'm already like nowhere near being able to afford this team as of like last Saturday. But you getting hold of these players again. I don't care about team value, but in terms of flexibility and what's possible in the future, these players are running away. In terms of price, Son's already got loads of value. I've had Son for ages. He's going up in price. Bowen's already going up. Matoma will probably go up if he does bank. You know what I mean? So you've got hold of these players. You've got them in the net. Again, it's another thing not to have to worry about. Whereas the defenders are not. Fingers crossed that probably cash will bank and then start racing up in price. But again, I'm not justifying this team because of anything to do with catching price rises. But what I'm saying is it gives me flexibility to have those top price points. Like Bowen's the top price point of the sort of medium mids. I can move to anyone from there, and Matoma's close enough. And obviously Saka, because people could look at it and say just get Martinelli or whatever. But again, start with the top guy as well.
Yeah. Feels weird that you can get Saka and Matoma still at their starting price, doesn't it? Like they're still at the price from game week 1. That's weird.
Yeah.
Saka's had almost 300,000 transfers in this week already as well. Did he drop? I think he dropped, didn't he? That's why.
Yeah.
Mitoma's a weird one. Yeah, Mitoma. It's only 150,000 transfers in this week for him. He just feels like a must. I mean, you were talking obviously, Danny, and the games are going on. Adingra got an assist for Ansu Fati. Brighton are now 2-0 up, and Ansu Fati's now been subbed off with 25 minutes to go. So I mean, like, I don't know how much Fati is actually in the game, but
he's 6'5", surprisingly.
6'5". So
that doesn't sound good for Pedro's minutes. That's the problem with Pedro. Is obviously Ferguson is fit, and Fati could easily be playing in the 10 just as likely as Pedro.
Yeah.
But I do think Adingra is fairly nailed. But again, he's fairly nailed if he's fit. It might just be that they do a test before a game 2 days after Europe, and it's like, yeah, you're not fit.
Matoma and Adingra have got no rest today. They
really.
No, I saw there was a leak earlier that said that Matoma was benched, but I'm sure it seems it's wrong. It's another one to add to the count on it. But
you're joking.
70 odd minutes, and they're both playing. So,
but they've the good thing about Brighton again, I think it's probably mentioned. Zoff mentioned it as well on the way this week, but they've got a week off next week, doesn't it? And I do think that helps. It's like it's like we can stick him on and play him through it. Yeah, exactly, and then give him a week off.
Yeah,
and then I think it's also. Is it home tonight and then home on Sunday?
Yes, which makes it real easy.
Yeah,
makes it really just a late training session, really, isn't it? A late.
And then I think even the next one, I think is away. It's away in Europe, but then handily it's at home.
Sheffield United
home again. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, seems pretty set. I mean,
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I mean, because I think you're obviously. We don't know what's going to happen with doubles and blanks and everything that's going on later on in the season. I imagine all your chips are still in play apart from the wild card, right? I guess. So you haven't done a bench boost game week 1 or anything like that. So you'll obviously have to manage. You're obviously just pushing that back as far as it can go to the end of the season with other chips, and we're not thinking about those yet. So I guess most of us aren't doing that as well. To be fair, I don't hate it. I feel nervous about what I deem to be a lack of flexibility in there, really. But as you say, that front 7 is so solid. There's no minutes issues. I mean, apart from Son, I guess. Son's probably the biggest minutes risk of the lot, and that's ridiculous. To be quite honest.
But Son's one of those players. Like when we talk about minutes risks, if any of them are benched, they're not going to get a full rest. So we're not talking about the bench there coming into play.
No.
Yeah. And I love, by the way, how the general comment is, I don't hate it. That usually means like everybody thinks it's absolutely garbage, which is fine. I quite like that. I hope that everybody hates this draft. I really do, because I don't mind. And it's not that I'm definitely going there and not trying to mislead. I'm probably fairly likely to at the moment. But I do think it's flexible. it's not flexible in terms of bringing anyone in off the bench. But again, I don't have to worry about that in the front six. But Taylor's a great one. Like Taylor's great. You know, Taylor's nailed. And I know he's not a good player, but it's great to have someone on the bench who's playing every game and they've got good fixtures. So that's really nice at 3.9. That gives you like a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah.
And then again, obviously I wouldn't have Lascelles if I could afford anyone else. I really don't like that aspect of the draft. Like I'd much rather have Branthwaite. You know, it's not close, but I can't afford him, and it is what it is. I'm not gonna change my whole draft because I can't get Branthwaite over Lascelles. That's just that's just not how I operate. Because I'm interested in who gets the points. I don't even mind if if I have to use one of these guys off the bench or somebody gets. I don't really. Sometimes I start the season like that because I'm interested in the players who can get 14 pointers. So I don't really care about these little bits of 1, 2 pointers here and there. And Lascelles, I would imagine that Botman's not going to play for the next 2 or 3 weeks, at least, you would think. And that's just at least, because that psychopath Howe's never going to tell us
No.
How long Botman's out for. So and they've got a decent fixture this week and then a decent fixture in 3.
Yeah.
There's
some good comments in there, interesting comments in there. Like that midfield is absolute fire. Any consideration for Maguire at 4.2? Without the Simicast gift, this draft is not working. That's pretty obvious, I think. But yeah, Simicast is rested tonight.
Something happens. Something always comes out.
Something always changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we going to do then, boys? Look at fixtures. Should we look at fixtures? Look at teams.
Yeah, sounds good. I was just going to say, Baker, just because he asked the question, don't want to ignore it, wherever that question came from about Maguire. But I do quite like Maguire. I do think he's at the moment. It's one of those things where if he carries on as he is, he'll carry on playing because there's a good feel there, and he's a very good passer of the ball. And I think Ten Hag likes him, and he hits those vertical passes, and he can play, but he can play. I know he's a bit slow and clumsy, but he can play on the ball. But anyway, yeah, I don't mind Maguire at all. But it's just that when a wildcard at this point, it's a wildcard until January, February, whatever. It's a long time Christmas. So I'd still probably rather have a Branthwaite, because even if you're talking about game week 13 or whatever it is, I think United play Everton.
Yeah.
And as sad as it is to say as a United fan, I'm not sure how much more confident I'd be in a United clean sheet there than an Everton one. So yeah, Branthwaite, he's fine. Leave him.
So I got the fixtures. This is Legamane's hop on, hop off. Nothing's really changed here. As we've said before, the hop on to the teams. You hop off the teams that were in the top 6 last year, plus a couple of others, basically, plus Tottenham and Chelsea. Otherwise, you hop on, basically. Yeah, I mean, I noticed, just thinking about it, you're not so doubled up anywhere, really, are you? Apart from sort of Liverpool and Villa.
Arsenal.
I suppose Liverpool, Villa, and Arsenal.
Liverpool, Villa, and Arsenal 2 each.
Yeah,
but no triples.
No triples.
I'm a bit worried about not having Diaby. I do like Diaby, but yeah, at the moment, that's it.
Thing is, I could say that I brought Diaby in last week, and I'm not. I do think it's a transfer out. I think I brought him in, but I do think he's going to be an easy transfer out. Is Leon Bailey's played tonight? Played really well. Scored 1, made 2, playing the role for Diaby. Who's to say that we don't see Leon Bailey again on the weekend? It could easily happen.
The thing with Diaby as well, though, is those comments from Watkins. Like Watkins is now not making those runs out to the flank, and he's very direct about that. He's saying, "I'm running down the middle. I'm scoring the goals now. I'm the daddy." And obviously, we saw straight away as a result of that, Diaby was pretty wide last game, wasn't he? So he might be doing a lot more of the running.
Yeah, but look, if Diaby plays Luton and smashes it, great. If he plays Luton and doesn't smash it, woo, that's suddenly a really big problem, really, really quickly. So I do think, that there's so many good midfielders out there. I do see that when it comes to the end of the Fulham run in 12, people are going to have a look at it and see if there's other places they can go. And therefore, I'm not so sure. Like if you look at Bowen's fixtures as a longer term, you can just leave him there. You can really just leave him there. That's just really, really good. You know, as Diaby's run out, Sterling's come back for Chelsea again. That looks good. You've got Bumo. That's going to be a tempter in game week 14, home to Luton. People will do that. Diaby to Bumo. They'll be about the same price by then. And obviously Matoma's run of games. Like, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it that could happen. Yeah. You know, the hope on Open Diaby is that Zaniolo's rubbish, which he is rubbish. And therefore, if he does come in, you know, if anyone's going first, it should be Zaniolo rather than Diaby. So hopefully that keeps him in a good spot. But you know, we need to see performance from him. We need to see goals from him. Look, he could quite easily have had a couple of assists, 4 key passes on the weekend. Unfortunately, like, it would have been Watkins that have profited more from those if that had happened. It's still Watkins, the boy that you want. Still Watkins.
Yeah, agree.
I guess that leans into in terms of talking about goals now. We can jump into the 11FI data for projected goals. I did see something else as well from, I'm trying to think, I can't think who it was, but they released some stats bomb data that just showed it was showing that Man City's expect non-penalty XG is, their rolling non-penalty XG is lower than it's ever been under Pep.
Yeah, I think
to the point
it went back a long time.
A long time, but to the point where FPL Chase, who does his rolling XG graphs, decided not to put out a graphic because he felt like people would challenge the quality of his data. So they are dropping slightly. However, this is telling us that even despite having what the hop on, hop off, etc., says are objectively worse fixtures than other teams, they're still expected to score more goals than everyone else. And yet, I'm seeing a lot less double up attacking wise on City than anyone else.
I think that you can't, even bad City, like when City rock in with like a 1.6 XG game, you're like, well, that was rubbish. You know what I mean? Like for them, that's what you do. So what's a good performance for a lot of teams is like, we consider it bad. Like, we've got so used to the 2.5 to 3 XGs from them. They're now not creating that very regularly. They're creating 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. The difference, though, is that from a fantasy perspective, where the key pass is going to come from? It's not going to come from any of that back four. I mean, a lot of the performance the other night was Alana Rodri pulling stuff out of his arse. Like, that man is just ridiculous. Like, there's just nothing he can't do. And then, or it's a little neat play with Alvarez and Foden into Haaland, or it's Doku beating 6 players and doing something fun. Like, it's so much more limited of where it comes from. So you just got none of these extra players adding to it. So they're now still generating 2 XG, which is still really good. I don't see that as being less. It just doesn't feel like the 4 or 5 nils that you thought were going to happen regularly anymore from them. Haaland's figures are still the same. They're not changing because, like, he's just taking up so much of it. So I still think Haaland's that one. Whether you want Alvarez as well. I guess we always have dreams of having, when we have both of them, that
one passes to the other, basically.
4 times.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with Foden and Haaland last season. Yeah. It was.
Oh, we had it with Son and Kane, so we kind of just expect it when we get the 2 forward men that's what they do for each other.
Whereas now we kind of expect it to be, maybe it's a 2 or maybe it's a 3 goal one, and we get 3 or 4 of them if we have both of them up. You know, I did think when Alvarez came on for the last 20 minutes yesterday, he was incredible. That 20 minutes he was on. And there was one that was pulled back. I don't know whether it's a Champions League thing that was pulled back for a handball, but Grealish handballed it. Then it went on to Alvarez. Then it would passed it to Haaland, who then passed it back to Alvarez, who then scored, and they called it back for a handball, which was a ricochet handball. It basically hit his leg and then went up and hit his hand. You were like, that was a long time back to go back about how, handball in the build up.
I didn't think that. I thought it was only the goal scorer as well.
Yeah, no.
I thought it was only the goal scorer if it hit the
not
goal
the
scorer's
assist,
hand.
not the goal scorer. It was like 4 passes before the actual thing happened, which I thought was odd. So yeah, like if Haaland connects with Alvarez last night, and you add that into last night, you'd be like, hold on, Haaland got 2 goals, plus he set up Alvarez. Alvarez scored. He was only on the pitch 20 minutes. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But they were playing young boys. Are young boys better than Man United, Danny?
Is anyone not better than Man United? Yeah, but the thing is, I missed the game last night again, annoyingly, because I've got this dodgy stream that's terrible on my TV. Long story, but so I'm annoyed that now you just talking about Alvarez like that. I'm annoyed that I've missed that. But yeah, I mean, it's a great fixture for City, isn't it? On the weekend, it's just there's no two ways about that. As much of an optimist as I am about United generally, I don't feel good at the moment. I was just trying to think about you, Baker, because I know you've got a tough decision with, obviously you own Alvarez and there's Watkins there. I just think whichever way you go, it's so hard, isn't it, to not own someone like Watkins? I would hate it as well, but it's one of those classic situations where you really have to think about who have you got rather than who you've not got. And it's almost quite a nice opportunity because a lot of people won't have Alvarez. A lot of people, loads of people buying Watkins. People are wildcarding and so on. And you have got Alvarez, who plays up front for City and is nailed. And it's still Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say anything other than that. But the money fixture is this one. He's got 3 very good fixtures. But also Villa. How many minutes? Watkins probably came off the bench tonight. Are they away tonight as well, or?
Yeah, 60 minutes to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not an urgent transfer. It's not actually. The more I think about it, if you did want to go whatever, Saka or whoever you want to get instead on Matoma, because you've got Alvarez playing a derby against United where they're going to be well up for it. My only reservation in saying this to you is, unfortunately, I'm annoyed that I've not been able to watch enough football the last few weeks, and it's a funny one with Alvarez, isn't it? Because you don't feel wildly confident. I don't, about like hauls or how those goals are going to come. And some of his goals have almost been a bit fortunate. It's kind of, even the one on the weekend, he sort of scuffed it a bit. But he's on a lot of set pieces. He's good at free. He's one of those guys who he knows how to find a way. And I don't even think we've seen close to the best of him even yet. And last season, when he was coming on and he wasn't nailed, he looked unbelievable. And like you said last night, how good he was when he came on. They've got United, which is a very good fixture, and then they've got Bournemouth at home. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you know that the bit that's always added to it is you don't know you're getting it because it's Pep. Like, they're not functioning as well as you'd like them to, and you don't know how much of it in Pep's mind thinking, well, we functioned better when we didn't have our, like, would he just give him a game off? Like, obviously he did put him on the bench in the week, but he then said something about like he couldn't play a full game. And you're like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, I forgot that.
Where do we go with that? So it's a difficult one, Alvarez. Like, imagine the week where you don't have Watkins and then Alvarez doesn't play. You would be like, this is the end. Because we're all of our bench like it's straight into Archer. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else there. So it's really tough for me, the idea that I don't end up with Watkins. But for me to do it, I need to either take out Alvarez. I can't really do it in a 3-4-3. And I'd also need to lose Maddison. I don't have to lose Maddison, actually. I've just had a rethink on that. So I either go Maddison, say, down to Matoma, which gives me the money to easily do Alvarez to Watkins, or JWP, who I hate, could.
How's he ticking along, by the way?
Yeah, he like as I said, he's never been a tick along. He's explosive. You just don't know when that explosion's coming. But I could go JWP to Palmer. but then I've literally got to play Palmer every week if I do it that way. And weirdly, despite the fact that JWP is just horrid, because of the fixtures, I'm really comfortable with just playing JWP for these next 3 game weeks, as opposed to Palmer. I don't mind it home to Brentford. I don't like it away to Tottenham. And then, we've got a few more to come after that. But you'd end up playing him because he's a penalty taker.
No, I agree. And he might be better in some of these fixtures as well, where West Ham actually do have a little bit of the ball and they're getting more corners and they're getting more free kicks close to goal and so on.
That's what you don't know.
That's what we're
That's
hoping.
what you don't know.
That's what we're hoping.
That you bought him for that reason, that you thought that was what was coming.
Well, we also bought
Suchek.
him because we also bought him because he was playing further forward at the time,
Yeah,
and he'd returned 5 times in 4 games, and we felt it was a change of system, a change of team for him, a change of environment, change of everything. Everything was just in his favour, and he was at a team where both the centre backs are massive. They had Suchek, who's massive, and you just thought, well, that's perfect, great. And then he started just playing number 6, and didn't bother getting involved.
It was unfortunate. I was just going to say, Adam, because I was going to say exactly the same thing, but I don't know. I saw the lineups tonight, but Suchek was back at DM tonight, and I know it was just Europe. But you never know. He's putting back at DM. Maybe that's in his mind to move him back there.
Yeah, I mean, interesting when you look at these projected goals. I do look at it. So there's a few takeaways I take from it. One is I take away and say, if we look at our boys, so less than 10 goals expected in the next 6 game weeks, and I've got 17 million in Son and Maddison in midfield, and I think that's quite a lot. It's quite a lot for a team that's expected to score less than 10 goals in that period. And the best fixture being the last one in game week 15. So by the time you could get them back again. But then I look at Villa and West Ham here, and I'm thinking we want to load up on those. And 8.9 and 8.5. And that includes some prime and 2 of their best fixtures are this week. So when it goes past this week, suddenly I'm like, ooh, that ain't so great. So yeah, whereas then Arsenal, you look at it and you just think, oh man, Sheffield United, how do I go about it? So I could avoid Matoma, I could avoid Watkins completely this week and just do Maddison to Saka, and it
I'm just desperately hoping that Jesus injury, assuming he is actually injured, is going to completely fuck them again. Honestly, because otherwise, this week is a horror show for me.
Maddo to Saka's like a stab in the heart as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's horrific.
But that for people that are non-game week 10 wildcard, I mean, it's hide behind your sofa time for that Arsenal game. I mean, wow. Look at it. Look at that. They've got that 10, 12, 14, those games. They, 2.4, ridiculous. Yeah, it's big. But this is expected goals. This is what we're projections. Projections are never going to project, hey, you're going to win 4-0 this week.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, actually, just thinking as well, I don't want to scare you more, but I just remembered about McBurney injury. That's a big blow to them defensively, because he's the only one who can hold the ball up. He does so much up front for them. That's a big blow.
So that 54% chance of a clean sheet.
Oh, that's
this week,
got to be like 90% of a clean sheet. It's got to be the biggest. Well, so far in terms of projections, this is like the biggest on clean so far, and the biggest on projections.
You've frozen, mate. You've frozen. You need to switch off and switch on.
Oh no!
Oh no! You started off again. That's all right.
I've got him. He's all right.
You're all right, man.
I did though.
Okay,
I saw it. I did see it.
You're good.
But yeah. Game week 10, just off Arsenal alone, you should be looking to maximise it. We're on to clean sheets now, are we?
Yeah, I just threw them up. We're already like 50 minutes in and we haven't even touched our teams yet.
Wow. It's like Areola and Turner in every team. And even if you work the best rotation you could possibly work through, 36% is the best chance you've got over the next 6 game weeks for a clean. It's Danny, have you even considered just getting to Raya? I know you'd have to immediately take someone out. So it would drop a Bowen, I imagine, would be the person, or
Mm.
Bowen
I mean,
or
I've
Taylor,
not seriously considered it, but I have obviously considered it. I even was looking at, I looked at Allison as well, and Raya, and it does worry me because it's one of those opportunities. Maybe there's an opportunity there to get a keeper that wildcard haters and non-wildcarders can't get. That's really good and really, but yeah, it's the clean sheets, but we're not. The strength of a good keeper in this game is not just the clean sheets. It's the saves.
what
When I
else
look at
they what else do you want them to do, Danny?
yeah, saves and bonus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so not Edison anyway. But I'm just looking now at Areola, and when I see anyone who's got, you've got 5 points against Brighton without a clean sheet. Is this Areola? Yeah, it is. He got 4 points in a 3-1 loss against City. So if he's a good saver, there's hope. There's always hope. You only need a few hauls. I'm not getting him because I think he's going to get loads of clean sheets. But you put the two together, a cheap keeper gets saves, gets bonus, and it's got a good run of fixtures, and it's fine. And it's one of them that's probably not worth overthinking. But
the big thing with Areola is that the prime fixtures for Areola are the same as Raya's. They are 10, 12, 14. So having Raya and Areola is like, ugh, I could easily be benching a load of keeper points, and that alone would probably be enough to put me off even bothering with Raya. I'd be like, I'm already stretched enough. I'll just stick down on it. But it does feel like we've all just given up on cleans from keepers. Just hoping for the best.
Yeah, although Adam had Pope for a bit, didn't he? Which is, you've had a few things. You must have had a few.
I did. I had to maneuver around my defenders to get Trippier in, so I had to rework that. But yeah, I did have Pope in for a little bit.
But we want the fun, and the fun sits elsewhere. Just getting, the chances of Raya getting any bonus against when they're putting 8 past Sheffield United this weekend is probably pretty slim.
My poor dad is Sheffield United fan. I'm going to be watching it with him.
Yeah. On the 4.3, why not Osula if he's coming back and McBurney's possibly out?
Yeah, true. Actually, I forgot about McBurney being out. I might need to look into how long he's out for. Who've they got? They've got Archer, McBurney, Osula. I thought there was someone
Osula's
else.
been injured, and but he's coming. He's on his way back. But it just feels like Mbama's never happening. So
yes, it's not a bad shot that. Although I need to think about more about that. So thanks for the reminder. I'm gonna FPL Rich might be listening. I'll probably speak to him. Our friend Ryan.
Yeah,
because obviously West Ham fans have been big on Bama, and there's been a lot about Antonio being really shit recently, hasn't there?
Yeah, but I think that's because they just want Kudus to play more. So they're just trying to find ways to get Kudus in. They're not trying to find ways to
I don't really want to see Bowen move up front, to be honest. I know I'm not just saying like he's worse when he plays up front, but I do prefer it when there's a big unit up there, and Bowen's just got the freedom to do what he wants and just get the. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth thinking about actually. If McBurney's out for a while,
it's probably closer.
Salah came on. Salah came on and scored. By the way,
Salah came on. I'm 2 things in the chat. One, Barry Shuttleworth has told us Brian Brewster, isn't it? It's the other one they've got.
Okay, yeah, forgot about him.
Then Shaddy Russell said, trust Danny the Vicar to crowbar Pope into the conversation.
Oh, brilliant.
Like it.
Love it.
Fantastic. Should we do our teams?
That's another comment for next time, isn't it, Baker? You got a screenshot the next time I come on.
We lose the live chat. That's why I wanted to say it, just so people don't lose it. We lose the live chat.
Right, this is your team. You've got 1 free transfer and 0.5 million in the bank. Read it out, mate.
I need to try and work this out. So I've got Areola in goal, which won't be changing. My back 3 won't be changing. It's Cash, Share, Porro. My current midfield, so Salah, Cap, Son, Ward-Prowse, Maddison, Diaby, and up front, Haaland and Alvarez. 0.5 in the bank, 1 free transfer, bugger all on the bench, apart from Archer, which we know is now nailed. So that's the good thing. Playing Areola over Flecken because he's got Chelsea. So
And
Right.
maybe on pens, by the way, Archer.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. You kind of would assume now. You kind of would assume now. So I'm okay with that. But the team's relatively nailed in it. So I've got 0.5. I could do a Madison to Saka. That could definitely happen. I could do a JWP to Matoma. They're just one moves, straight, easy things to do. If I want Watkins, which I clearly want Watkins, it's just whether I want to take a -4 to get Watkins when I'm losing good players. It would be Alvarez to Watkins, and that would be funded through either Madison down to Matoma or JWP down to Palmer. They're the ways. It's confusing. I don't really know the right way. I hate the idea that I'm losing Tottenham because I'm just biased as hell. But I feel like the best value of the -4 in an initial thing would be the Matoma or Watkins for Madison and Alvarez. That was my initial thoughts early in the week, was like, that's probably the move. And now I'm thinking I'm trying to find as many options as I can to do something that means that I don't do that. But
no, I think you're overcomplicating. I think that's the move.
Yeah.
I don't think coming down to Palmer unless you're forced to, I think is a good idea. And
yeah,
you say most people are going to want more Sterling than Palmer. And like Chelsea's fixtures until 16 are horrific, right?
yeah.
And you can call Brentford. You can call Brentford a good game if you want, but
you start playing him. You just start playing.
Well, you are,
all the
especially
time.
with your bench. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd end up being like, oh, Arch, or well, they're both on pens, but it's not good either way. So it's probably the move. It's probably the right move to do, is that one. And it also gives me 0.7 in the bank, so I get a bit back off that as well, which means that if I want to do, say, for example, I could do DRB to Bowen. That could happen if DRB falls to pieces, or I could do JWP out to somebody. So I probably would just take these few weeks anyway to do it, but I can create some money. And I'll probably also, I'm going to have Simicast at some point. That's going to probably happen, isn't it? So I could probably let, like, next week release a bit more money into it, get myself over $1 million in the bank, and then it just helps this fund this get out of the limpet of JW that we get to. So it's probably the right move. It's probably the right move is the Matoma Watkins one.
Is Salah nailed on your captain? I mean, you're going to bring Watkins in, plum fixture. Not interested?
Absolutely. No, I'm not interested on it. Like, Forest just conceded 2 to Luton. Salah's just come off the bench. He scored immediately. He's just the one for me. It's just that it's the extra points. Do you know what I mean? It is all there for it. Like,
extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet.
Yeah, you just think there's
he's getting the bonus this year as well. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Albeit you can't see a world in which Watkins doesn't. You can't see a world in which Watkins doesn't brace, and therefore if he braces, he gets top bonus.
Yeah.
So they're both absurd options. There's only so many things you can take on this week in there. That's the other thing on this week, is that I'm taking on Saka, which I don't like taking on Saka. I'm taking on Watkins if I don't, if I keep these boys. Yeah, and I'll celebrate Madison. Give me the old, I'll celebrate Madison anyway, which I will.
Well, you will.
I will.
I celebrated Son ruining my FPL rank last week. That comes with the territory. You have to do it that way around. It
does. There is still that piece that we don't know pens for Tottenham.
So
we don't 100% do it.
It's so annoying, but we might get one. At some point.
Like, if Madders turns around and gets a pet, like he takes the first pen, and you've sold him, you'd be like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" But you just move Son, and we just keep the merry-go-round. We're gonna face into this many times. When you wildcard, like you lose all these players and you don't question it as much. Like no one, I've seen no one on wildcard. The only reason anyone's keeping Madison is because they can't afford to keep Son. But there's not many around doing it, so it's probably that, and take another hit. Adam, you've made your move, so show us some more fun.
I had to go early. So I've got Areola in goal as well. My back three, Share, Cash, and Trippier. Pretty happy with that. They can hang around for as long as they need to. Midfield at the moment is Doku, Ward-Prowse, Maddison, and Salah. And then a front three of Alvarez, Watkins, and Haaland. I've got my captaincy on Watkins at the moment. My bench is Strakosha, Palmer, Anderson, and Kabore. I had to go early because, I couldn't bear the sight of Rashford in my team. So that also combined with the fact that I missed Rashford going down on the Sunday night. And so I made the move on the Monday to avoid the Palmer rise, or to get the Palmer rise. And I was almost out. Like I was 0.1. I had 0.1 in the bank when we were looking at it on Sunday. And then if I hadn't have done it on Monday, I'd have been priced out by Tuesday. It would have been an absolute nightmare. And I wanted the front three of Alvarez, Watkins, and Haaland because I want Alvarez and Haaland for Bournemouth, definitely. And then I can make a decision afterwards about what to do with Alvarez. No interest in removing Haaland from this squad at all. The only thing that is now, so it says 2 free transfers at the top. That's because I've used them. I had rolled. So I've now got a dilemma. Like, do I keep Jeremy Doku in there against United, or do I get Mitoma? So it's literally Mitoma or Doku. And what I was saying earlier about my sort of tunnel vision as to like, this is the player that I kind of want. And it's a kind of like a yes, no decision. And I'm just trying to work out over the next 2 weeks whether that pays off. Because, it's it's silly though, because Mitoma against Fulham and Everton, or Doku against United and Bournemouth.
Mm.
And is Doku going to play in this game, given it's a derby and there's a lot to lose in a derby? I don't know the answer. I'm just wondering.
I think Grealish is nailed, so I think it's right wing or not. Like, I'd be amazed. I'd just be amazed. I thought Grealish was great again last night as well.
The nice thing about Mitoma, is that, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think a lot of people are going to own him at all. Like, most people have got to try and, most people not on Wildcard have got to find a way to Saka or the likes. And a lot of people on Wildcard, given the number of options, are either not going there. He's not. I don't think he's favoured in analytics circles, because I think review slightly underrates him. I think that's partly to do with, I don't know. Yeah,
he doesn't take anything, does he?
It's the set pieces. I feel like the input of the set pieces is slightly off. It's slightly off. It underrates Mitoma. I think it underrates Bowen as well. They're understandable, but review will have Gross ahead of Mitoma on the same minutes. That's one example. I just think it's off. It's completely different with like Top Fam or something like that rates him massively highly. But anyway, my point is I quite like that about Mitoma. Is hardly anyone's going to have him. It's quite nice, and like you can view it optimistic. Like you're talking about, you're talking about Mitoma instead of Saka. There's a nice way to view that. He could easily match Saka. He could with those fixtures. I like it. I like it when there's an opportunity that comes up where I feel like nobody's going to a really top player.
The needle I push on Adam is our friend Pranil, Mr. Late Riser. He loves Phil Foden, loves him a lot. Has a special relationship with Phil. And last season, he didn't pick Phil when Phil got all the points. And he watched his friends, me, for example, Ivan, you as well, Danny, I think as well, and had some Foden joy, and we all had lots of Foden joy, and he didn't have it, and like he hated it, just hated it. Well, Adam is the first person, like everyone, well, a lot of people will say other people, but Adam is the first person that I know that jumped on Mitoma, had all the points for it. If he goes off Adam and he's not, and I'm sitting here with Adam Hall, you're gonna hate it.
I will hate it. I mean, like you talk about,
he's your boy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had him straight after the World Cup last year. I just knew he was going to pop off, or I just felt like he would. But like Doku's numbers last night were really good again. I know we're talking about a very small game, small sample size. Like his numbers were really good again last night. So why would he not? Why would he not play I can't think of a reason. And I know,
don't ever ask that question, Adam, when it comes to Man City.
I know. But if he has that kind of impact on a game, I mean, he had 2 key passes last night, 2 shots, 0.4 xG, and he had 0.7 XA. Yeah, it's against young boys. We've already made that joke about young boys and United and whatever, but he was unlucky not to get all the points last week. I don't know. I know he was up against James Milner, but
it wouldn't surprise me, though. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if Pep's had something in his mind about what he's going to take to Old Trafford for a while. You know, and he might have a relative idea, depending on whoever he's playing against, you know, of shape and safetiness and all that sort of stuff. Is it for a hit? Is that what you? I missed that. Did you say?
Yeah, Mitoma would be for a hit. So yeah, it is. I need to be able to justify it over a longer period for sure.
I mean, I said to you before, I think I looked at this before, and I said I would play Palmer because I think like Palmer's really good.
Over
He's
who?
A really good option.
Over who though?
Over
I can't.
I play him over Doku.
Yeah.
Oh, and then not move anything. Play him over Doku. Not. I don't know.
Palmer this week and Doku next. Like, yeah,
like Chelsea are really good. They're legit. Like, and this guy is a seriously good player who's playing in the 10/up front /false 9 on pens, and he's, you know, I'm just going to sell Palmer to you for a second. But
please.
The guy's got swagger. Like he's got no fear. He's a guy who. This is a guy who, like, Sterling's kicking off because he wants a penalty. Palmer's 21 and he's like, nah, mate, give us the ball. You know, you don't give a shit. This guy doesn't give a shit. And the only reason Pep sold him is because he kicked off apparently and wanted to play, because he was. It surprised me as well, but he was like a star at City. Because I remember when what's his name? You know, when they sold what's his name? Who was it? Baker. The Spanish guy. I've forgotten his name. He's just left me. And
Cancelo.
No, the guy was playing up front.
Ferran Torres.
Ferran Torres. And they said at the time, the only, because everyone was shocked by that sale because he was like playing well. And they said at the time the only reason they sold him was because they were absolutely convinced that Palmer was going to be like a superstar.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just me selling Palmer a little bit. But this is a guy who's like, don't be like fooled by the price and by the fact there's a new guy. This is a guy who's kind of almost talismanic at the moment straight away for Chelsea.
I need to look at Chelsea in a bit more detail because my bias will just guide me away as far as possible. And yes, I understand that you said Spanish player and I said Cancelo, who's Portuguese. So I'll just get that out of the way before I get brought up in comments and stuff like that.
We've already said, like, we know how bad Flecken is, mate. We know how bad he is. We know what Burnley should like.
You're ganging up on me, now, you know that, both of you.
Well, when it was straight Doku for Mitoma, and then I hadn't seen that on the bench, so it's a good spot on the bench. You see that, and you're like, hold on. What you're worried about for Doku is that you want it's not that you want this game; it's that you want the Bournemouth game. Well, now you've got the option. Yeah, just play.
Go with what you feel.
Just take that. Have no Brighton and no Arsenal this week. That feels weird.
I know.
Or I could. Could I do something? Could I do something else? I mean, longer term, do I want an Arsenal defender? Is there anyone better there?
Well, and then do that, and then move that. Not for a -4.
Not for a -4. No, I guess not.
Anderson's nice to have there as well on the bench. He's got some nice fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I've got no issues with Anderson at all. Kabore is obviously just dead money, whatever. If I have a week where I've got a luxury transfer, I can move him on, but otherwise, not overly fussed.
We haven't talked enough about it, but you have got the captain on Watkins.
Yeah, it's the best player at the moment against the worst team. And I'm just assuming that he will score lots of points. I don't doubt that Salah will score points.
It's fair.
Yeah, just assume he's going to score 2 goals. And look, if he gets 13 points, Salah can score whatever he wants. I've got both. I've got Haaland as well. He can have a hat trick. Why not? You know, I think we talked about ownership not really mattering when you've got them all. You just want the guy who's going to score the most points. I think Watkins is going to score the most points this week.
On that note, are we done?
I think we're done. We will do that. Back to here where we say to Danny, thanks for sharing your wildcard. Oh, Danny, yeah, question. Let's just quickly go back to your wildcard because we've mentioned Talisman, talismanic players everywhere. You know, who's your
Salah.
captain this week?
It will be Salah, I think. It
Yeah.
will be Salah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't hate Watkins, but at all as a captain. But yeah.
Well,
Depends,
I mean, you did, and I quote, call him the perfect fantasy football player.
Yeah.
You couldn't
That's
craft
that's
a better player. Was I think your exact words. So
he still is.
Good. You just getting some confirmation bias in my mind for my captaincy decision. That's all. Just backing it up again. So yeah. So thank you to everyone who joined us in the chat. Hopefully, you know, the discussion was good and we answered all questions. A bit, I hope. Not maybe nothing specifically, but hopefully just through the discussion we managed to answer any questions. Aston Villa Bozzy says Adam has good ball knowledge. Watkins will smash it. I think we all agree that Watkins will smash it. But yeah. So if you haven't done already, make sure you like the stream, like the video if you're watching back, review the podcast if you're listening back. Thank you to Danny. Thank you to Baker as always. And good luck for game week 10.
Good luck, boys.
Cheers, guys.